A lot of developers are worried about their future these days. They worried what if they lose the battle to the AI technologies we see all the time these days. And basically become good at writing codes. Especially those who want to start their journey as a developer are also really worried about this, and they're thinking if they need to become a developer or they need to choose another path. So here in this video, I want to tell you how you can become a developer, but not too worried about the future, because based on what I've seen over the past few years, I can assure you that for the next few years, at least 5 years, you're gonna still have your job and you can still work as a developer. But there are a few things you need to know. First of all, the number of jobs under the title we have at this point is gonna be less and less. So if you're backend developer with Django, a lot of companies want to have a less and less developers with that. And it's about every other frameworks. Even without AI, it's a bit difficult to compete with other technologies, because every day we have a new technology, a new framework, a new language. And to be honest, you need to start learning everything and you need to be prepared for a lot of change. So it doesn't matter if it's AI or other technologies, still you need to learn a lot of things every day. So to stay in the game and to not lose the battle to the AI technologies, what you need to do is that you need to learn more new things, and you need to at the end see the big picture. That's really important. This is what AI is not good at this point. So basically at the end, first of all, you need to know all the basics, and then at the end, you need to know how to put all the pieces together. But in this video, I want to walk you through the steps that I think it's a good path to become a developer, mainly web developer, but also you can apply to other areas of programming and data science and machine learning. And this path walks you through, all the necessary things. And at the end, what you have is a set of skills that is not really easy to be replaceable by AI technologies, because in the end we're going to have a lot of AI technologies, but the client wants somebody to put all these things together. Basically, we need some people, some developers as service integrators. These days we see all the time agents, and we see a lot of platforms to creating agents. Basically, these agent creator platforms are basically service integrators. So you put all the pieces together. No matter how big the AI becomes, still at the end we need somebody to choose the AI tools and put them together. But the title could be different. It could be developer, it could be prompt engineer, it could be service integrator or solution engineer, but the basics are pretty much the same. So here we start the journey. So first of all, a lot of people ask me what is the best source to start coding. A lot of sources we have, a lot of Udemy courses, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of websites, but I can assure you that the best start point is W3 School website. If I go and take a look at the website, school, so it covers all, basically I can say most of the programming languages and markup languages. We have HTML, CSS, JavaScript, SQL, Python, and all the important languages this website covers. And actually the steps are really easy. If I click on Python, here it says you can simply print a message using print command. And the good point about W3 Schools is that you can test it right away in its playground, basically. So here for instance, I can add another command like print, this is Milad, and we can run it. And it makes it really easy for you to just start, without thinking about set up the whole environment on your local machine. Okay, that's a good starting point. And I highly recommend to start with W3 Schools. Don't go to other sources. We have a lot of sources, and there is a good chance that you get confused about all these sources. Okay, just start with this website. And then I highly recommend that you start learning either Python or JavaScript or both. Okay, so as I said, to be able to compete with AI technologies, you need to know more things. So at least having the knowledge of Python and JavaScript languages are really important. And then what you need to do after learning the basics of Python and JavaScript, and I can say that Python, JavaScript, and even PHP pretty much all are the same. Okay, if you learn something in Python, you can pretty much really easily, with a little bit of difference, you can apply to JavaScript. The syntaxes are pretty much similar. And then you need to start learning some data structures, like we have numbers, we have strings, we have arrays, we have dictionaries or key value data types. And basically there are a few data types that are really important to know, and there are shared between different languages. So if you learn it once, you can apply it in different and multiple languages. And also start learning algorithms. Well, to be honest, in reality, you don't use algorithms that much, because in reality, you just need to implement some functionalities, use some basic modules. But there are some really rare cases that you are hired as an R&D engineer or a solution engineer. You need to come up with a really basic module, and you need to do some investigation and come up with really brand new solutions. So in that case, you need to understand algorithms, especially in data science and machine learning. But otherwise, well, it's not really necessary. However, in the interviews, they ask you about some of these algorithms to know how much you know about them. But it's good, really good starting point to start working with the languages. One good website to actually start programming, actual programming, well, you can program in W3 School Playground, but a better place is to use onecompiler.com. For instance, there are a lot of online compilers that you can use, but OneCompiler is one of those good websites. So basically, if I go to onecompiler.com, compiler. So here it supports a lot of languages. So for instance, Python. Here you can just start writing your code. You don't need to worry about the environments. You don't need to install Python on your local machine. So just start with coding like this before getting into setting up the environment. And it's pretty much similar to W3 School editor here. After that, if you want to start actually testing yourself and your skills and abilities and work, but because without teacher, it's a little bit difficult to assess yourself. So one good website is LeetCode, or there are other similar websites like this. And basically, LeetCode is a platform that you can participate in different competitions and in different games. That, for instance, there is a question ask you to implement a solution for this problem for this company, and they give you some examples, and step by step you need to implement the solution, but with the right data structure and with the right algorithm. And then at the end, it gives you some scores, so you understand that if you're good or not. And there are a lot of companies that use this LeetCode practices for the interviews. And it's good to be ready for the interviews like this. Okay, after learning Python, JavaScript, and all the basics, it's time to work a little bit with SQL and writing queries. So basically, SQL is the language for the databases, most of the databases, and basically SQL databases. Well, NoSQL databases, they work basically with APIs, but the concept is pretty much similar. But SQL is really important in writing queries, and it's part of every tech job. I can say that it doesn't matter if you're a web developer or front-end developer or a data scientist or a machine learning engineer. You need to at some point work with a database, and the only way you can communicate with the database is writing queries. And then after that, it's a good point to start learning and understanding HTML and CSS and understand how web pages actually work. So for instance, any web page on the internet, if I go to, for instance, W3 School, if I right click on this and open the page source, it's a combination of HTML, CSS, and also JavaScript. But actually the main UI here you see, the titles, the text here is all HTML. And all the colors and the order you see here, the alignments, everything are CSS. So with combining HTML and CSS, you can build pretty much any website and any web pages. But it's actually the UI. But if you want to add more functionality and make it more dynamic, you need to learn JavaScript as well and know how to add JavaScript. Well, here I said Python and JavaScript, and basically, but JavaScript here also means Node.js. Basically, Node.js is a server version of JavaScript. So when you learn JavaScript, pretty much you can work with Node.js, and there isn't that much difference there. Okay, after learning HTML, CSS, it's time to work a little bit with the tools that we need as developers, like Git or version control. So Git is one of the most famous version controls, and also GitHub is basically a platform to store your code on the cloud. So with Git you can control the version of your code. I mean, you can have a history of your code, and then you can push it into GitHub so that you lose your code by having it only on your local machine. And then you need to learn some basics about Linux and terminal commands. One good thing here, one important note here is that be careful about using AI for learning. So it's good to use AI to ask questions and to learn things, but be too specific about your problems. Okay, just learn a command, learn a syntax, not pasting a piece of code, a script, and then ask the AI what it does. It doesn't matter. What you need to do in the beginning, because you could get confused with AI and you start thinking that you know enough. But the reality is that AI, if you start using AI too soon, it makes you really weak. So just start AI as for simple tasks, ask some questions, and then move on to the next step, which is frameworks. So now that you know all the basics about basic languages like Python and JavaScript or Node.js, now you need to choose frameworks. Basic frameworks are some libraries that makes it really easy for you to come up with web application or applications in general. So we have Django based on Python, and we have Next.js, which is really famous these days, based on Node.js or JavaScript. So with Django, you can create a whole application, front-end, back-end. Also with Next.js, you can do the same thing, front-end and back-end. And sometimes a lot of companies are using Django, a lot of companies and startups are using Next.js. Both are really powerful frameworks. Well, if I were you, I would choose both and go with both of them because, well, as I said, you need to learn more. But in the end, focus on one framework and then know a little bit about the other one. Okay, that's a better practice. Also know about API requests, especially RESTful APIs, and also how HTTP methods work, because that's the basic of communicating between backend and frontend, and it's a basic of creating websites and web applications. Then it's time to work with databases a little bit. Now that you know how to write queries, it's good to install databases, to have to create tables, do everything that you need to do with databases connected to your project. Also, we have all sorts of databases: SQL, NoSQL, SQL like MySQL or PostgreSQL, NoSQL like Redis or MongoDB. You can have your databases local, or you can have it on the cloud. Now pretty much you know everything about developing a web application basically. Now it's time to deploy your project into the real world. So you have different options these days to deploy your project, but the basic one is having a Linux server, or basically a VPS, a virtual machine that you can install all the requirements by yourself and then deploy your project manually. And this is really good practice if you want to know more, and this is essential if you want to be still in the game, because this is a part that AI still, it's difficult for AI to handle these things because you need to put things together. But also we have some cloud platforms that makes it really easy for you to deploy your project. We have, for instance, Vercel. If you have a Next.js project, you can use Vercel, or if you have a Django project, you can use Heroku. They make it really easy for you to deploy your project. Or these days, a lot of companies are looking for developers who know about cloud-based services like AWS services, Azure services, Google Cloud services, and also learn a little bit about CI/CD processes. And basically, it means that you need to push one button to have your project live. Okay, that's the whole gist of CI/CD. And then after that, it's time to go deeper a little bit, understand object-oriented programming, know a little bit about design patterns, learn about cron jobs, and also async functions, which is really important, especially in Next.js and JavaScript. Learn about clean coding and best practices, and all of these mainly theoretical topics. Now it's time to actually start using AI. So when you know all these things, now it's good for you to start using AI for your daily work. So test Copilot, test ChatGPT, test Cursor. I love Cursor. Actually, it's much easier to work with, and it sees your whole project, and it can come up with a lot of functionalities with just one simple prompt. Try online coders and online website makers to just be relevant to the game, and also try agents and service integrators. It's good to know about them and have a basic knowledge about them. And at the end, I think what you need to know is that you need to know about all these things, and you need to see the big picture, because in the end, as I said, companies need somebody, clients need somebody to tell them what is good for them, and they need somebody to put all the pieces together, whether it's AI technology or it's traditional technology. It doesn't matter for the client. The client doesn't know anything. Okay, look at all the technologies these days like WordPress or other website makers like Wix or, for instance, Shopify. It's really easy to work with, but even in that case, there are a lot of clients that either they don't know how to work with them or they don't want to get involved, okay? They want just somebody to handle them. But you need to know more, you need to be more prepared, and I think you still have the chance to be in the game. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video, and by the way, I have created this nice flowchart, this animated flowchart with Flowboard.com. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time really soon. Bye bye.